Last Friday, we had the news that 5 players, Lu Ning, Li Hang, Zhao Zhanbo, Chang Bingyu and Bai Lang Ning, had all been suspended. Now, this followed on from the existing suspension which had been imposed on Liang Wenbo in October. And this morning came the biggest news yet. Yan Bingtao, a current top 16 player and the Masters champion only the season before last, had also been suspended. All of this in connection with ongoing investigations into allegations of match fixing. The WPBSA chairman is Jason Ferguson. Jason, thanks for joining us. We know Yan Bingtao came to the venue here in Brentwood today to play his match against Ashley Hugel. Can you tell us what happened then?
Yes, throughout this investigation, obviously suspensions went ahead last week of some players. Throughout that, we were presented with some new evidence which came to light, which meant that we needed to interview Yan Bingtao. Yan Bingtao turned up this morning. He was interviewed at length by Nigel Moore, our head of integrity, and as a result of that interview and discussions, I took the decision to suspend Yan Bingtao with immediate effect, pending any outcome of this investigation or any potential disciplinary proceedings which may follow.
This means we now have 7 players in this situation, Jason. It's a very bad situation, obviously, for the game, a very bad look for snooker. And with so many players involved and so much to get through, it could take some time to get to the bottom of all this.
Well, it could, but I have to say we're a long way down the road with this investigation. Nigel Moore is very experienced in this. We have a team behind that that's very experienced. We're constantly monitoring markets and everything else. We know what's going on. Any player that thinks they can get away with it, by the way, is completely foolish, because we can find it easily. It won't take as long as you think. I think we are, as like I say, quite well down the road. Well, you're right, Michael. It is not a good look for us. But we are a sport that chooses to deal with it. We are a sport that chooses to put it out in the public domain. We will not have it talked about behind the scenes. Expose it, get it out there, deal with it, and we can move on with the professional sport that we've got. Obviously, it's not a great look this morning, but actually let's not put that in the way of this great sport that goes all over the world. You know, we really are making huge progress, and the sport is played in the best of spirits, 99.999 best, you know, of the percentage of the time. Unfortunately, this morning, of course, a strong decision this morning to suspend Yan Bingtao. That was a result of new evidence that came to light in an ongoing inquiry which started in October with the suspension of Liang Wenbo. It involves a few players. Those players will stay suspended. We will not have any concerns over the sport being played out there in the arena. People are buying tickets, people are buying our TV rights and watching our sport all over the world. It must be played 100% in the spirit that it should be played, and we will ensure that, hence the reason for these suspensions.
You mentioned, you know, it's playing the best spirits 99.999% of the time, but a number of players have now been suspended whilst this investigation is ongoing. How concerned are you about the impact and the size potentially of something that the sport's facing here?
Well, I mean, you know, let me put it into context. I mean, every sport, there are people behind the scenes in every sport trying to corrupt live sport all over the world, every day of the week, every night of the week. It's going on all the time. And that's not about whether, you know, you're in the UK or wherever you are. There are, you know, various markets around the world where betting goes on. We've seen it in every sport, whether that be football, tennis, cricket. You know, all these sports have had issues. You know, this is our issue to deal with today. We will deal with it, and we will bring it out into the open, hence the suspended players and hence the ongoing inquiry. Of course, it's a concern about what goes on, and our job is to make sure it's clean and fair. We will do that.
How shocking is this news, and how potentially devastating it is for the sport?
Very much so. It's terrible news. You know, the ethos of sport is that you watch a sport on TV and you don't know who's going to win, you know. And we don't know any more about it. What we do know is that it started a few weeks ago. Liang Wenbo was suspended. He was the first ever winner of a Home Nations event, by the way back in 2016. But and there's a trickle-down effect of other players who have been suspended since. Lesser players in ranking than Wenbo. And now this is different again. You know, I have to say that having watched Yan Bingtao all of his playing career, I've never seen him do anything but give everything on the table. So I'm very shocked. There are different levels of all this. I mean, there are certain players that we will never see again in snooker. Not Chinese players, I might add. People out there will know they are. They're never going to come back. There are people who have been suspended for betting on themselves to win matches, which is wrong, but it's not as bad as some of the other stuff. and there's other individuals that have been punished for not being told about an approach, and that is a lower level incident. Basically, you've got to, blow the whistle on these things. I'm hoping it's something like that with Wembo and all the others, but as you say, we'll wait and find out.
Yeah, and I suppose with Yan Bingtao, obviously, it's a different dimension almost, because we're looking at a former Masters champion, a young man that has dedicated himself to this game, moved to Sheffield, all of that, and also he's earned such a big living. So I suppose that's the surprising part of this. It's a different dimension now.
It is a really bad day for snooker. Obviously, we've got to wait to the end of the inquiry to see what has happened. But, if they've suspended him straight away today, there is something there. It has to be sorted out. I'm with Neil. Every time I've seen Bingtao play, he's always giving 100%, always really trying. But it is a bad day for snooker, and if it's found out, this has to be out of the game. It has to be gone. You've got, the guys watching live sport having their small bets and all that. You cannot have any crooked business in any sport. It has to be ironed out, and I'm sure it will be.
And I think as well, we go back the history of all sport. There will be corruption and cheating, obviously manipulating results for betting outcomes. It's always been there, but I suppose in this day and age, in 2022, we feel like we've almost moved on from that. But with all of this emerging, it's a very different story, Neil.
It is, and there's very powerful markets all around the world on betting, outside of the UK as well. What I would say is that there's plenty of rumours flying around which we can't get involved in because no one really knows the truth. But a very serious crime would be if someone was, say, the ringleader of all this kind of stuff and getting other players implicated. But we don't know any of that's happened. We absolutely don't know. And World Snooker have done the right thing. But as you can see, it was a pretty sort of glum-faced Jason Ferguson there, because this is not what we want in snooker. But what he said at the end is right. It's got to come out there. It's got to be dealt with, and we will get it dealt with.